Hi boys and girls, it's Solskjaer back with another video this evening reacting to the Atalanta Manchester United game in the Champions League. Yeah, the less said about it the better probably. I think it was another fractured, haphazard performance by Man United, and yeah, as we know, these are just the norm now. Kind of initially in the season, it was a bit like, oh yeah, these are becoming more frequent. It's something to worry about. Whereas now, I just think this is the team that we've got now. And what kind of upsets me is the fact that the game was just not enjoyable at all. It was really, really horrible to watch United play, and I was enjoying watching Atalanta play. They were far more enjoyable to watch. And yeah, if I wasn't a United fan, I'd be watching this as a neutral, thinking, yeah, come on Atalanta, go and win the game. But yeah, unfortunately it was at United's expense, and yeah, the amount of chances they created again was a worry against a team that, yeah, Zapata and Ilicic, they're good players, but they're nothing absolutely spectacular. I think every time we run up against a team that is well managed, they have a plan, they have an identity, which, let's be honest, now the vast majority of teams have in comparison to us. But every time we run against a team that just have patterns of play, there's clearly sort of like you can see the manager's imprint in terms of the way the patterns develop in their phases of play through the pitch. We struggle really badly against these teams because anyone that has a bit of creation, they get in and behind our midfield so easily, and they can make things happen at will. And at the moment, the way Harry Maguire's playing, he has a rick in him. He looks a bit calamitous at the moment, looks a bit like Harry Kane, in the sense that when Harry Kane's fit and in shape and firing, he looks like he can run a bit quickly. He doesn't look like he's, sort of the phrase that I use, when you're controlling a slow player on FIFA, is like, it's like driving a bus. It's a bit like that with Harry Kane, and Harry Maguire is the exact same sort of style of player in terms of physique. Just if they're not quite fit or quite at it, they look like they're running through treacle. And yeah, a lot of the game was that. I thought he was easily bypassed numerous times, and yeah, looks a shell of the player that he was at the Euros and then in the previous season, where he went on that huge run of games. And maybe this is an after effect of burnout from the season before. I wouldn't put it past that. I think we're seeing some of those effects left on Bruno as well. But yeah, just obviously, the first goal was a poor one. David De Gea should have saved it. It was saw it late, but it kind of squeezed in at the wrong sort of angle between arm and sort of elbow to kind of the side area. So he made it awkward for himself, and that squirmed in. And I think that would be the final straw if David De Gea started playing badly and there were the mistakes from previous seasons back into his game, then who knows how far down the table we're going to go. I mean, we've got City at the weekend, and then Watford the week after that, and then Chelsea. I'd feel confident against Watford because they've been struggling. It looked like they could score goals. That could be a bit of a basketball match. But obviously City and Chelsea, we have to try and get away with these games with at least a point out of one of them. Maybe a point against City, beat Watford, and then if we ended up losing to Chelsea, but maybe put in a bit of performance, and that's something that we could stomach. But very much could easily see it being 2 losses, 1 win out of the next 3 games. And yeah, I just think if Ronaldo was terrific, he's getting. You're getting what you're paying for with Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of the goals. I thought the first goal was obviously a brilliant move, and that's what can happen when we actually play football and play it quick and 1-2 touch and the kind of patterns. But like I said, I don't think it's anything off the training ground. I just think it's like good players understanding where to go on a whim, and that obviously all came together organically very nicely for that goal. The Atalanta goal in the second half, again, was sloppy defending. Defensive line was a bit all over the place. Maguire deep, by not quite tracking Zapata's run in behind. And yeah, I just thought, for the most part, Zapata causes a lot of problems. A bit like when we played Antonio against West Ham, they're kind of a similar profile of player. But for the most part, I think Bailly dealt with it well. I thought, considering he's not played in ages and obviously had to come in for Lindelof, I thought he was terrific. Like, if he hadn't put in some of those blocks, some of those athletic cutouts from crosses, I shudder to think what the score could have been. But yeah, just more on Solskjaer. I just think they have to be looking for a new manager. That's my position on it. It doesn't have to be now necessarily. It probably should be if we're going to make sure that we qualify for the top 4 in the league. But I do think they have to be working in the background to decide maybe there's someone that they're going to line them up for the summer potentially. Just because I think he's taken it as far as he can get it. I'm kind of just sick to death of the fact we played a midfield of Pogba and McTominay, 2 players that play the same position. McTominay more of a ball carrier, Pogba someone that can carry the ball as well with a bit of a passing range, but still quite similar in terms of profile, height, and that ability to sort of go from A to B through the midfield. Both lack defensive awareness. I just not understand that midfield. I just think he has too much faith in McTominay in the sense that he played well against Spurs, but again, Fred was there playing the defensive midfield position, and I know a good portion out there don't think Fred's a defensive midfielder either, and yeah, to some extent there are parts I agree with that, but as I mentioned in the previous videos, one thing about Fred is that he knows where to be, has a sense of where to be, and his athleticism bails him out, and his stamina in terms of the ability to cover the ground. He often just makes mistakes when he gets to those positions. McTominay doesn't even know where the positions are. Like, he doesn't drop into the right areas, and Pogba was so sloppy on the ball, and it was just a recipe for disaster. And I just think sometimes you put out a team sheet or you put out some players, and you just see it coming from a mile off how this is gonna work out within the game. And the fact that we didn't control the midfield was damning again. And it starts with the manager and what he's thinking, and there's no plan there. It's absolute nonsense. Another laughable decision from Solskjaer. I thought it was a joke. And then, in terms of the substitutions, I thought you saw from when Van der Beek came on last 5 minutes, the dynamic movement that he's got and running beyond. And I just think a manager just more sense would have an understanding of how you could make a Bruno work maybe slightly deeper to hit Van der Beek on the runs that go beyond the striker. I do think he would link up really well with Ronaldo. And I do just think that generally across the board with Sancho or Van der Beek playing a bit more, we would just function much better as a team. And this is the thing with players like Rashford, Bruno, Ronaldo, Pogba, and like I say, if you have a McTominay midfield as well, where you certainly are giving up the midfield with that combination. If you have all that together, it's the epitome of moments FC, and we relied on Ronaldo's moments for this game. And players like Van der Beek and Sancho, they're never going to thrive under a manager like Solskjaer, because like I said, they're too clever players. They're too cute. And they need a manager that has some kind of system that they can play to and they can fit in like a cog to. Whereas the way we're set up at the moment, it's literally just chaos. A bit of fatigue at the end from Atalanta maybe, and then a moment of quality bailed us out again. It's just to sum up really, it's just I know there'd be some United fans that are high on the fact that, you know, Ronaldo's obviously bailed us out again, and I know it's harsh to be, you know, I've mentioned it before about how, you know, I would have thought about leaving him out of the team and things like that. It's just of the opinion that we never should have signed him, and he's been unbelievable for us, and it shows that if you could have predicted the way Solskjaer's just going to capitulate as a United manager, and really not bring on the team, and like I say, not really identify the problem in midfield in terms of, okay, well, if we don't have the quality personnel, then we can try and strengthen in other areas in terms of the way we set up our team. The fact that none of that's been addressed, I just think it turns out that Ronaldo's actually, his performances have really been a blessing in disguise, really, and something that I certainly wasn't expecting. So, yeah, give him his flowers there. He's definitely producing the goods, but I think it's, you know, the fact that he suits the team, that just lives off the moment, and certainly cannot put together any string of performances. I genuinely think that at this moment in time, while we're playing under Solskjaer, you know, you're better off just watching the highlights, because the highlights is what we are. We're a highlights team. There's no point in watching the full game, because a lot of it is just garbage. It's just garbage that's going to make you pull your hair out. Whereas if you just go on YouTube and watch a 3-minute video of how the game went, you'd probably get a pretty good understanding, because you'd get all the Atalanta chances, and then you'd just get the Ronaldo goals, and that would be that, and, you know, you'd move on with your day probably quite stress free. So hilarious sort of dampener to leave it on, but yeah, that's reality at the moment. So my opinion is we're going to sleepwalk to, best we could do is 4th, but yeah, we could easily just sleepwalk to Europa League finish here. And I think, you know, change needs to come soon. But like I say, if they are going to stick with him, then fine. You know, I'm going to get behind Solskjaer in terms of the way we perform, and hopefully we'll see some kind of progression going into mid-season or over the Christmas period as fixtures congest. But I do think they need to be looking elsewhere, and the summer obviously being the time to probably make the move. All right, so that'll do it for today. Yeah. Well done if you got through that game and this video. Nice one. Yeah, please like, share and subscribe. Yeah, leave a comment, do something. Let's keep some kind of momentum with the videos. And yeah, cheers again. See you in the next one. Ciao.